everyone. We hope you are enjoying your time at the virtual job fair. We are kind of wrapping up with our last segment, which is always, I don't play favorites, but my favorite segment in the sense that we get to get some perspectives from people who are on the front lines of recruiting staff. They're seeing, just changes in the marketplace. And as we move along into a more positive direction with the pandemic, I'm sure they have seen a lot of different changes in hiring and in the way that, recruiting is being done. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I just want to start off by thanking all of our speakers we had today. We had 10 amazing topics and speakers. Thanks to Access Employment and Rainy River. They had conducted some amazing sessions. I want this session to be interactive. I know a lot of you have been asking questions in the sessions, which is great. So if you have any questions for James or Margarita as we go along, that would be amazing. It helps, add some liveness to the event. My name is Rachel Mitchell. I'm the Director of Business Development for those that didn't catch me in the opening remarks or introducing speakers. I'm joined by James Adams and Margarita Kossinova. So I'm going to let them intro themselves and talk a little bit about their business. And then we're going to dive in. We're going to dive into, maybe changes they've seen since, COVID's been more in a positive direction. We're going to talk about the positions that they might be recruiting for, and just some general advice from a recruiter's perspective in your job search, and maybe, things that you can implement or strategies or suggestions that they have. So we hope you take away a lot from the event today. You can use the event chat or the stage chat to ask questions. We're really looking forward to it being interactive. So as many questions as you have, you can throw them in the chat and we will try our best to get to them. So let's start with James, since he's on the left-hand side of my screen here. Maybe James they've both been on our panel before. Amazing recruiters. We really appreciate your time. I want to start off by saying I know it's a lot to take time out of your day, so we really, really appreciate it. So we'll start with James Adams. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, and a little bit about your business.
Wonderful. Always a pleasure to really help out in terms of giving some insights on the job market. I have a very specialized niche. I run a recruitment agency, construction recruitment agency that is hired by the industry's largest and fastest growing real estate construction developers and builders. So I have the opportunity to build out their elite teams and management positions and above, looking at anywhere from HR managers, finance managers, construction managers, right across the grid, anything that a construction company needs in terms of development and their team, we help them build that out. So building out my team, myself, been running my business for the last three and a half years now. And construction, as a lot of us know, is ridiculously on fire right now. If you're trying to buy a house, you probably are feeling that. And it's a really hot market out there for the candidate side of things, and lots of jobs and lots of opportunity in this industry for sure.
Amazing. Well, thanks for joining us today. And Margarita.
Oh my gosh, off mute. Hi, I'm Margarita. So I've been recruiting in the tech sector for about 7 years now, focusing on engineering, design, and product. I'm currently with Scotia Digital, so a lot of digital recruiting, and definitely saw some great stuff on the market happening lately. The market is hot. We are doing a lot of hiring. So some positive changes are happening, and I'm happy to be a part of it right now.
That's great. Thanks so much for joining us. So two amazing perspectives. We have a business owner in a recruiting firm, and we have a corporate, from a recruiter from more of a corporate standpoint. So I'm excited to see the differences or advice that you have from coming from kind of two different areas of recruiting. So James, maybe we could start with you. Things have changed a lot for the way employers are recruiting. I think both of you are working from home right now, if I can tell from the backgrounds of where you are. I'm at home also. I've been at home like most people. But James, are you seeing with your clients that a lot of people are returning to work? What kind of changes are you noticing in the last couple months with COVID, the way we're recruiting, the way that employers are hiring? Are they doing in-person interviews? Maybe you can touch a little bit on what you're seeing now that we're kind of coming out of COVID, knock on wood.
Yes, please, knock on wood. This is a very interesting one and a very hot topic for both employers and candidates all across the board. When we're fully in COVID, obviously 90% of the industry was working from home. Construction being an essential service, they did have some people in the office. Now, because construction is very an older mentality, a lot of my clients are still looking to have people back in the office at least 4 times a week. So they are kind of where we thought it may have progressed and had more flexibility to work from home. A lot of my clients are still saying, no, we still want them back in the office 4 to 5 times a week. And then the other interesting thing is, though, looking on the candidate side, because I've recently done some polls through my network, that is the biggest thing. Above salary, above bonus, above everything else, people want the flexible work from home lifestyle. So we're kind of having a really interesting duality where the industry had adapted and now it's sort of contracting a little bit. And the candidates are saying, no, because they drive the market now, they need that flexibility. So we're having to push a lot more for the employers to really keep that flexibility of working from home 3-4 days a week. It's really interesting. If it's going to stay, I'm not too sure, but that's what we're seeing out there in the construction industry, particularly. It's definitely an interesting beast, that's for sure.
Amazing. And Margarita, how about you?
Yeah, we are still fully remote. And it's with the banking, it's kind of hard to get access to be on site in the office. So all of the interviews, everything's taking place remotely. And it's until the unforeseeable future, we're still staying home.
Okay, perfect. And from a banking perspective, you come from Scotiabank, and it's probably been very difficult from a recruiter's perspective. I'm sure you do a high volume of recruiting, and that brings in a lot of digital, a lot of virtual interviews and things like that, which I touched on in the opening remarks. I think that video interviews are here to stay. I think that it's a good pre-screening tool. I think recruiters have realized that you can tell a lot from a candidate based on a virtual interview. I might be wrong. Every recruiter probably has a different perspective on that. But just based on the positions that we've hired for, the pre-screening and the interview process is great virtually. It is nice to meet people in person that you're going to be working with. So we have started implementing that a little bit. But with virtual interviews, I think it's going to be kind of the way the world works in terms of pre-screening and things like that. So what are kind of the overall or main tips that you would give candidates on, like, what are you looking for in a virtual interview? What makes a candidate successful? Has there been any stories of candidates that have stood out, anything unique they've done within their interviews that you could pass on to our listeners?
For sure. So I'll definitely mention a few great examples of where the candidates went out of their ways to, and I know it's hard during the pandemic, we have our pets and kids and everyone at home. So candidates who went out of their way to kind of remove all of these kinds of visual and like loud obstacles, really focus in, prepare well, and of course, be ready to spend time on video, logged on early, make sure whatever application they're using is working and functioning fine, including the microphone and camera, which happens to all of us, happened to me today. So those are definitely the pleasant kinds of experiences. And then there are situations where a candidate strangely kind of disappears off of the video or is not looking in the right direction, which makes us wonder, are they trying to cheat on the interview, or are they reading off of somewhere? So yeah, definitely try to be as prepared as you can be, as honest as you can be, and try to remove all obstacles. And if not, just let the interviewers know ahead of time that I will have the following situation. So if you see this happening, please don't be surprised. I couldn't take care of it. So honesty always wins, as long as we're ready to kind of see certain things on video and hear.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And James, maybe kind of a follow-up. I know you said the construction industry is a little more, how did you word it? You worded it in a nice way. Behind the times? I don't know. Is that
old
okay
school.
to say?
Yes.
A little bit old school. There we go. So I know you mentioned that they were a little bit, old school. Are you doing in-person interviews, or what kind of advice? I guess over the pandemic, I'm sure you've done virtual interviews. I just think it's such an important skill to land for job seekers. And I know that people are still having a little bit of difficulty being on the screen, talking. I know sometimes I do. I actually did an in-person meeting the other day, and I I lost my composure because I was like, I'm not used to being, face to face with someone.
Right.
What advice do you have in terms of interviews and the whole process?
Yeah, I mean, I think video is here to stay, and I hope so. It just streamlines the entire process and coordinating back and forth through schedules. It's just the way we're going to work. It's interesting, though. I think the expectation has to be set when we're using video correctly. And what I mean by that is I've heard feedback from candidates where they jump on the interview and the employer isn't on video. So I think there can be a lot more clarity around that in terms of if you're going to schedule a video interview. So I always say that to my candidates, say, hey, you will be on video, obviously be in a quiet space like Margarita said. And to follow up to that, one of the funny stories was one of my clients interviewed a candidate and they forgot to turn their mic and camera off the video when it ended.
Oh, no.
So make sure you do that and actually exit the call, because he started talking about the interview, saying how he bombed it and he doesn't think he's the right fit.
Oh, no.
And yeah, so obviously they didn't move forward with him. And obviously, to be fair, it didn't seem like he was one to move forward anyways. But those little things, but also just being yourself, realizing that everybody's dealing with technology. We're all in this together. And I'm going to steal a tip that I heard one of the other panelists say one on the other calls, was putting they call it ducking in movies, where you put like a duck above your camera to look at the ducks, you know where to look at, or you put like a sticky note above your camera so you know exactly where you need to look.
I love that advice. Yes,
so I'll steal that one from I can't remember who it was that said it. I think that's a really important one outside of obviously the environment. But one other thing I wanted to mention, I'd be really curious what the market is looking at in terms of candidates. And I don't want to steal the show here, but I'm really trying to revamp the entire candidate attraction process. So how are the candidates feeling about video interviews? What can be improved? What are gaps in this process that we can improve as a hiring team, as a memorable hiring process that I'm trying to create for my clients? So I'd be really interested in the chat if anybody has any feedback there of what they've seen in their experience. I'd be grateful as well.
I like that. That's great. Kind of playing on that, I guess, Margarita, I'm sure you guys have developed an amazing candidate experience with your, programs and the way that you recruit. Maybe you can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, pretty much we're trying to adjust to the volumes. And when it comes to candidate experience, we do try to make sure that they are well aware of in terms of what's going to happen in the interview. All candidates should walk into the interview with clear expectations in terms of what kind of an interview it's going to be. Especially in the tech world, we try to make sure they know that there might be like a whiteboarding exercise or some very specific subject matter expert questions, so they are prepared and know what's going to be, what to expect off of the meeting. And then, of course, letting candidates know whom they would be meeting with and who these people are. I always also suggest that candidates, once they know the names, do some research and learn about a bit of a background about this individual who they would be meeting with. But it's always best practice from the recruiters and TA standpoint to make sure the candidates are well prepared.
That's great. That's great. And based on candidate preparedness, I feel like right now it is very much a candidate market, like James said, but there are still jobs out there that are, still getting hundreds of applications. And I still hear this a lot. I mean, there's a high demand in certain industries, and then certain industries, are lacking a little bit in terms of, I think grocery stores, logistics companies, I think they're having a really hard time finding the right people. But if you're looking for a job in tech or accounting or things like that, I know employers are still getting hundreds of applications. So James, what do you look for on a resume that helps a candidate stand out? It's an important thing right now. It's so hard to get an interview. And I think the resume, there's a lot of different things floating around out there of how it should be formatted and things like that. But from a recruiter perspective, taking formatting out of it, what are you really looking for on a resume when it lands on your screen or on your desk, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I think outside of format and obviously making sure they read the job description and read the job posting of what they're applying to, because we get a lot of people who apply to positions that they're not qualified for. right out the gate. But the biggest things is obviously tenure in terms of not too jumpy in terms of their experience, or if they do have an explanation on their resume saying it was a contract, it was an internship, so we can quickly vet that out. Because the reality is, I probably read through resumes a lot more and spend a little more time on it. But in terms of HR, and maybe Margarita can speak more to this, you're getting maybe 10 seconds to really impress them when they see that resume. And a lot of the times it's location. Are you located near the job, which is going to open up a lot more talent because of virtual and remote working, which is great. The second one is, the reality is big companies hold a lot of weight, like relatable companies. If you come from a company that is their direct competitor, that's going to obviously hold a lot more weight. And number three, outside of formatting, spelling, and correctness, I think the biggest one that's missed is metrics. So specific metrics of what they actually achieved at each company. Because the reality is, we don't care as much as what you did on a daily basis. What did you achieve? So I achieved in construction, we tell them to put their project list on. I worked on $100 million project. I did it from A to Z, from ground up. Okay, great. Now I can get a sense of what that looks like in terms of volume and their scope. So those are probably my best three there.
Right. So definitely looking for quantitative information for sure. I hear that a lot. Margarita, what about you? What are you looking for? I'm sure, you have an ATS system and things like that, but I'm sure you still manually review resumes also. What are you looking for ultimately when a candidate applies that kind of is across the board? I know that there can be things that are very specific to each job, but as some general advice for job seekers.
I would say a clear career progression timeline. I see a lot of confusion these days, and of course, less is more, especially as James mentioned, we do only have a few seconds to kind of look over that resume and look for the keywords. Also, same with any other industry, key projects, the scope of projects, and the major, I'd say, the targets that they had or what they've met and achieved. So yeah, the achievement's pretty much the same thing, but of course clarity and staying concise and organized when it comes to the resume.
Amazing, perfect. And maybe you could talk a little bit about, James, I know you touched on some of the jobs, you kind of rhymed them off. Maybe go in a little more detail with what type of jobs you're looking for and kind of what you're recruiting for. Maybe share your career site if you'd like as well. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime I can get a plug in there, I'll take it. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're very active across the board. So you can check out adamslimitless.com. You can click on our career seekers page. We're looking for anybody we're looking for 2 project admins for a big developer for the renovation division. We're looking for a decor consultant in downtown Toronto who is familiar with the sales process, new home sales. I'm trying to think, would you say most of the audience on here is more new grads versus experienced?
I think when I looked, it was like 3 to 5 years of experience. So,
okay, because then we'd go anywhere for this. Actually, could be an interesting one. We're looking for an experienced realtor who wants to take a full-time in-house developer position. We're also looking for site supers, project managers. Always is a really pressing one for all my clients in residential and commercial construction space, as well as you can get up to like the VP and director level. Looking for a VP of design and a VP of pre-construction. We can see most of the job descriptions on our website, so feel free to take a peek.
Sure. If you want to include the link, that'd be great. And what about you, Margarita? What are you looking for?
I'm mostly hiring for product and design right now. So senior product managers, intermediate product managers, product designers, UX, UI designers, and leads and directors. Within the same capacity, most of my roles, I would say, are experienced to senior. So we are looking for significant experience and someone who comes in even at the entry level of our jobs, someone who can really show some strong project work and whatnot. And I'm going to share the Scotiabank job site. Just if you are interested in working with this great organization, you can register and look for any kind of a role within the bank.
That's great. Thanks. James, I kind of just want to ask you a question because I know there's some kind of interesting perceptions that people have of recruiting firms and agencies and how they work. And if a candidate hasn't had an experience with it, in all fairness, they don't understand, how a recruiting firm fits into the equation of the hiring process. So I think we've never done this before, but I think it's important, maybe as a an owner of a recruiting firm, how you can speak to how beneficial it is for a candidate to work with a recruiting firm. I know Toronto Jobs, some of you may know, we do also do recruitment in accounting and finance. So that's kind of where we specialize. And I know we get that a lot, people just not fully understanding how the process works. So therefore they create these kind of walls about it. But maybe you can talk a little bit about how a recruiting firm works. I think that might be interesting for our listeners today.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think people don't realize when they first start and get into working with recruiters, they don't realize they have to put down $1 million to work with us, right? So I should put that out there up front. It's funny because when I got into this industry, I had no clue what recruiting was, didn't know really what they did. And then I realized that we actually work on your behalf essentially for free, because we're getting paid by the clients, and we curate jobs that we are working with. Here's the one caveat: the recruiters aren't working for you, they're working for clients. So don't expect the recruiters to actually actively work with you in terms of promoting you as a candidate, unless they've taken specifically, because I have a process where I pick 5 candidates every single month that I work with, and I actively promote to my clients that they put up their hand and they want to. But in terms of recruitment as a whole, there's an incredible amount of specialized people who are in your field, who are in recruitment, that can help you secure a job, who have direct access to the hiring manager. We are essentially your cover letters that is going right in front of the hiring manager, versus you throwing your resume in a ring on a job board and going through HR, going through the 17 other different channels. I have direct access to the president most of the time. I say, hey, great, Rachel's a great candidate. We want to present her, and we can get you right in front of them for, literally it's for free. So it's a great network and resource for you as a candidate. So strongly suggest reaching out to any recruitment that specializes in your industry.
Yeah, that's great. It's amazing. I mean, it's someone that essentially is just your cheerleader in your corner, that's going to help you find a job and pump you up and really be your kind of backbone in the whole process. And it's nice because you form relationships with 2 people during the process, right? So that's great. So, Margarita, I know we touched on jobs. I know we touched on resumes, interviews, the recruiting process. What would be your kind of final 2 things that you would, advice that you would give to job seekers right now, whether they're in a career transition, or maybe they're looking for a job, or maybe they've felt really discouraged with the pandemic, they lost their job and it's been really hard for them to find employment. Maybe if we can kind of capture everyone in, 2 different pieces of advice that they can take away today. I know it's a tall order.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing would be to have, of course, the updated resume, the updated LinkedIn profile, because a lot of recruiting is done on LinkedIn today. To make sure to brush up on maybe some interviewing skills, reaching out to recruiters, making connections. And if someone's looking to transition from one job where they were kind of like waiting the pandemic out into the others, see what the skills are on the market. Can you provide value add to all the new jobs that are being posted? Is there some skills you might be interested in upgrading before making a move? And of course, evaluating whether this move would actually be beneficial to you, whether it would actually result in career growth and progression.
That's great. That's perfect advice. Thank you so much for that. And you knew it was coming next, James. I saw your face.
I had a little bit more time to prepare. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that is really refreshing to see, and we have a process for this, is clarity. Coming to the interview with knowing exactly what you're looking for, as opposed to stumbling through your answers, because clarity brings confidence. So we have something that we go through, which is our 6 C's to career clarity, that we walk through the candidates so they can best prepare themselves for the interview, but also to flush out their career goals. The reality is we're all busy. Not a lot of times we get to actually sit down and review our career goals, really what it is that we want. So at a high level, the 6 C's are commute, So you write down what are you looking for in a job, and you compare that to what you're doing now, and then we compare it to any opportunities that we present you. So it goes to the 6 C's: commute, compensation, culture, C-level, career growth. I always mess up the 6th one because I always forget it. But message me if you want it, and I can give you the 6th one. Commute, compensation, career growth, culture, C-level. There's 6. I can't remember it though at the top of my head.
That's okay. The 5 is amazing.
Yeah. So, but getting clear on those, and then when you're interviewing, that comes across, right? So you're interviewing, that confidence says, yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for, and then you know what it is when you find it. You'll know exactly the job you're looking for because you've already done the work in the beginning. That's
great. Well, thank you so much. I know we have a couple of minutes. I just have some concluding remarks. I first just want to say thank you to both of you for being on the panel. You've both been so supportive of the event and the virtual panels, and we really appreciate your time and your expertise. I mean, you're leaders in your industry, and it's amazing that you put your time in for this. We really appreciate it. And I just want to say thanks again to all of our speakers. Thanks to everyone for attending. We do have another job fair coming up in December, and we also have a tech one happening in November. So Sandra put a link here to all of the events that we have coming up. So if you want to register, obviously it is free of charge for job seekers. If you register in advance, we're trying our best to keep up with having a lot of resources and being as helpful as possible until we can do our live events again. So really appreciate you being here. TorontoJobs.ca, we have a recruiting division. We're recruiting for a large number of roles in finance and accounting. So Sandra will put the link in for all of the positions that we're recruiting for, so you can check those out. And also follow us on social media. We have over 100,000 followers on our social media. So it's a great place. You know, James, if you want to throw your jobs up there, or Margarita, we get a lot of traction with our social media. We just hit over 100,000 people across all of our channels and networks. So
well done.
Yeah. So
on Facebook or on
Facebook's our largest, like the group is our largest following. But Sandra can put the link tree. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. But yeah, our group has I think just over 35,000 or something. So if you want to throw your jobs on there, it might be beneficial for you. Or our LinkedIn, I think also we have about 15,000. So you're welcome to do that. And this is why, you know, job seekers are on this event, because now James might share his jobs and, you know, someone might see that. And it's all about networking and connections. So definitely check us out there and visit our link Sandra's put in the chat for all of our upcoming events and all of our resources that we have available to you as a job seeker. And thanks again. I just want to say a special shout out to Rainy River and Access Employment and Practical HR Solutions. We had a lot of support from them for the event today. They had a booth in the expo area, and they also did sessions. So just really wanted to shout out to them and really appreciate their time. So thanks everyone for joining us. We're stopping right at 4 o'clock, which is great. I hope everyone has a great afternoon, and we hope to see you at a future event. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.